And I think I'll go ahead and get started with the score slides. So welcome, everybody. We're happy to have you with us this evening. My name is Anita Kayat. I am a SCORE mentor with the Cleveland chapter, and we're very fortunate to have a guest speaker this evening to talk to you about getting your customers. But first I'm going to give you a little commercial about SCORE. So our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities. We do this through mentoring and education. We hope that you as a small business owner has the support that you need to be successful. We are very much aware that small businesses drive the economy nationally, and certainly in Cleveland over the past few years, the economy has improved dramatically because of small businesses. So we're grateful to you and other small business owners for that. SCORE has the largest network of free volunteers for small business mentoring. So no matter what stage your business is, we should be able to find a mentor to help you. There are over 10,000 mentors across the country in more than 250 chapters. So if in Cleveland we can't find someone who exactly has the background to work with you, we can call on one of those other 10,000 people to help you out. So we have people from all walks of life. About 10% of our clients are veterans. More than half are women, and we're pretty excited about that. So we provide mentoring. At this time, we're doing it mostly remotely, but we are starting to do in-person mentoring again. And the same thing with workshops and seminars. We're doing a lot of them online still, but we are doing seminars in person in various areas around the city. But our biggest resource is our website. If you go there, you'll find a list of all the upcoming webinars. You'll also find a tremendous number of recorded webinars. You'll also find a lot of tools and templates for business plans, financial plans, anything that you need to help you get started with your business. We are able to provide all of these services free because we are supported by the Small Business Administration and also by a number of organizations in the Cleveland area who want to see small businesses succeed. This is a snapshot of our website. If you go here and click on Find a Mentor, there's a short form that you can fill out. And if you take a little bit of time and tell us what your business is and what you're looking for in a mentor, it will make it easier for us to match you up with someone who will be compatible with you. As we said, you can sign up to take a workshop and you can browse the library. So if you get a chance, go to our website and take a look at it. And I do believe that's the end of my slides, and I'm going to turn everything over to Alexander Nouveau, who is going to do our presentation. And Alex, if you'd like to tell them a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Let me get started. Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Alexander Nouveau. I have built several successful businesses over my career and also got a lot of failures under the belt too. In today's workshop, we're going to be talking about the profit playbook, which is how to get sales day one. And specifically, we're going to talk about how to get a stampede of new customers that stay, pay, and refer others like themselves. We're going to go over the most expensive mistakes business owners are making and how to avoid them yourself, how to structure your business in a way to attract your best customers and really kind of repel the people you don't want to work with. We'll talk about the math on how you can actually build a 7-figure business yourself that's over $1 million in revenue, and how to stand out from the competition by creating an offer so good that customers would feel silly saying no. Now, before we get too far, I want to share a story with you that I think will really kind of illustrate the thinking behind this workshop and how you want to think about your business. Now, you may have heard this story before. It's about a traveling salesman and his missing cufflinks. Now, in this example, we're going to call our salesman Justin. And Justin's had a really tough last few months. His wife was just hit by a car and was pretty seriously injured. She's been in the hospital for 3 months. And just a few weeks ago, one of his 2 beautiful daughters was recently diagnosed with skin cancer. It's really tough. And over the last few months, as things have continued from this, his work as a salesperson has been suffering. Between the doctor's visits, being with his wife in the hospital, and caring for his daughters, he's just missing a lot of work. You can't blame him. He's got a family to take care of. And you know how this goes. At first, the company's supportive, but as the months go by, his boss begins to start complaining about his lack of performance. Not getting any new sales or paying him, that kind of stuff. And there's one final conversation where the boss says, look, Justin, you got to turn things around or we're going to have to let you go. You got one more chance. And so Justin goes to this last client, which is in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, to meet with this big client. And it's really important that he closes this deal because you know how this works in America. If you lose your job, you lose your health insurance. You can't do that. Law's on the line here. So he arrives the night before the meeting because he wants to make sure he's super prepared. And he sets out everything he needs on the bed, just prepared. And he's got his dress suit, he's got his dress shirt, his suit, his shoes, his belt, everything. But there's one thing that's missing and he can't find it. He can't find his cufflinks. He's checked everywhere, 5 times, can't find them. Now, normally for most people, this wouldn't be a problem, but it's a problem for him because he always wears French cuff shirts and you need cufflinks. And he can't hide the fact that he's missing the cufflinks because his suits are cut low to show off his cufflinks. So you can't like put a paperclip on there because that's all they're going to stare at the entire presentation. You're not going to get a sale. And everything's online. He doesn't get this deal. He loses his job. So he's frustrated. He goes downstairs, says, hey, front desk person, where do I go? And the front desk person says, go check out these 5 stores. So he goes to the first store, which is Sears. And sure enough, they don't have cufflinks. Okay, fine. We go to the second one. It says, go to Walmart or Kmart or whatever. So he goes there and no cufflinks. And at this point, he's gone to most of the stores and none of them sell cufflinks. And by the last store, Justin started to get a little scared because everything's on the line. What is he going to do if he loses his job? And he doesn't usually have a temper, but he can feel his temper boiling over. He's angry. He's mad. He's about to let somebody have it. So when he goes to the store, walks to the back, men's department, and talks to the young lady, he spends 5 minutes explaining that my job's on the line. I've got to have these cufflinks. This is my last chance. You got to do this thing. She, with sad face, she's like, sir, we don't have cufflinks. And before she could finish what she was going to say, he interrupts her. And he spends the next 15 minutes yelling at this poor girl about how crappy this town is, middle of nowhere, how they have no cufflinks, how they're going to ruin his life, and how, why don't they have these freaking cufflinks? It's so bad. And so finally, when he's done, and by the way, this girl was very patient with him. She understands because he explained the situation. And she's like, well, sir, before you let me finish, here's what I was going to say. Although we don't have the cufflinks, we do have some really nice shirts over there that'll go with your suit. And here's the thing, sir. They have buttons on them. You wouldn't even need cufflinks. You can just wear the buttons instead. Oh, Justin stops dead in his tracks. He never thought that there was another way to solve his problem, which was making sure he looks good. He was so focused on one thing. And by the way, you and I are not so different from Justin. As people, oftentimes, if we're under duress, which running a business, you're going to be stressed, lack of sleep, working tons of hours. Oftentimes, we focus on one problem and one solution, and we can't think creative. We're stuck in a box. So in Justin's case, he was saying, I have to have these cufflinks to solve this problem. But that really wasn't his problem. His problem was he didn't have a shirt that would work. And so the kind sales lady just said, hey, why don't you just buy a different shirt that doesn't have cufflinks? Something he didn't think about. And so here's the reason I'm mentioning this, because this narrow focus really slows us down and limits our success. So you want to open yourself up to better ideas out there, just like how Justin could have bought a new shirt. And the reason I say this is because everybody here today is here because they want to build a successful business. And so I want you to be focused on results and open yourself up to new ideas and how to achieve your dreams and not get stuck on one solution that won't work like Justin did, okay? Now, before we get into everything, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Alexander Nouveau. I've built and operated 3 businesses. Again, I've got lots of failures in there too. These are the ones that worked out. I've got an executive branding service, a lead gen company, and now Nouveau Startups, which is helping other service companies, service-based companies scale their operations. As a kid, I was a little bit odd growing up. Instead of watching sports like other kids, I was obsessed with business and investing. And I would read books about my hero, Warren Buffett. And I would, even when I turned 18, I went in to go open an IRA. That's how much of a nerd I was. In 2015, while sitting at a Starbucks, minding my own business, by the way, I was picked up by a girl who would later become my wife. Now, she denies picking me up, but I keep telling her that she sat down next to me, and it's her fault that I struck up the conversation with her. You guys see my logic, right? Well, a year into meeting her, I started to dream about our future. You know, we wanted what every couple wants: a house, a family, a life worth living. But you see, those things cost money, a lot of money. And looking at my career, I could probably get there in 20 years, but I'd be working tons of hours and I wouldn't be able to spend time with my family. And so I quit my job and I started lots of businesses. Some of them failed, some of them stuck. And I think what you will get the most out of listening to me is stories, because when I say some of them failed, it doesn't really do it justice. So I'll give you a quick story. It's a little bit of detour, but I think stories are where you learn and you understand, because if you're doing this and you're here, you probably have struggled a little bit with your business. So here's my origin story with this particular business. So in 2016, I spent 6 months trying to start a yoga business, and I prepared, we planned it, invested money in it. At the time, I lived in Houston, Texas, and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, lived in Houston. And this business was going to be in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Now, I don't know if you guys know geography. That's a really far distance away. I think it's like 28-hour drive time. And so, you know, again, I looked at my future. I said, I got to make this work because I'm not going to get it here. So planned for 6 months. I told my employer I was getting my 2 weeks. Everyone wished me well. I told all my friends, invested all this money. And I moved myself, packed up all my stuff in my car, and I drove all the way there. Started the business. And in 3 weeks, it all failed. Failed flat out in space. Didn't work. And on top of this, the sheer frustration of spending 6 months for something to fail in 3 weeks, it wasn't just that. It was the embarrassment. Think about yourself. Think about you telling all of your friends for 6 months how excited you were to do a business. And then right when you get there, quit your job, leave everything, it fails. That's what happened to me. I was ashamed. I was frustrated. I was kind of depressed. I'm like, what am I going to do? And so sitting there, just kind of negative self-talk, calling myself a failure. I said, well, you know, I've always liked going to Austin, Texas, which is a few hours outside of Houston. I'm just going to move there because that's what entrepreneurs do, and I'll come up with an idea. So I moved to Austin, got an apartment. I didn't have a job, and so I was going off my savings. I was like, I prayed for myself that I'd come up with an idea that would work. And I spent about a month just thinking stuff, trying things. Nothing came to me. And, you know, I got bills. I got an apartment. I got to feed myself. I didn't have a kid at the time, but, you know, I got bills. And I said, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to find a job because I can't figure out a business. And so I started looking and applying. Nobody called me. Put in hundreds of applications. Nobody called me back. I said, oh man, well, this sucks. I can't even get a job. I can't start a business. I can't get a job. What is wrong with me? By the way, people who run businesses, this is how you feel sometimes, down your luck. And so I decided to go on Fiverr and I looked up people who write resumes and I paid somebody $40 to write my resume because my resume must have been terrible because it was getting results. And so I got the resume back and I was like, wow, this is amazing. At the time, a light bulb came on. I'm like, well, I paid $40 for this, but this is not the value of this. I could sell this for a lot more, $500, maybe $800. And so talked to the writer. I said, hey, why don't I go get customers and you do the work? So we prep for a few months. And I had this super secret idea on how to get sales. I was like, I got this. Nobody's ever done this before. I got the super secret plan that's going to get me sales and be massively successful. And so here's what I did. I said, I'm going to call every recruiter in the entire country. And I'm going to get them to refer me business, because if I give them a commission when they send people, they're going to have all this money. They're going to keep on sending people. So I prepared, created a script. And from November 1st to December 31st of 2016, I cold called pretty much every recruiter in the entire country. And they loved talking to me. They took my phone call. They wanted to talk. They were supportive. But here's the thing. How many sales do you think I got from this effort? The super secret plan of building this massive empire based on referrals? Zero. Nothing. And so at the time, I had just spent all this time and money on this new business that had flopped. And so now my business bank account, I was down to $500. And again, people don't tell you these stories. They always tell you the montage of how I was massively successful. That's not how it works. Usually you fail a bunch and hopefully something works out. Here I am, $500 from the bank account, and it's January 1st. Like, what am I going to do? Well, at the time, I heard of something called Google Ads. I'm like, all right, keep pay-per-click. What do I got to lose? $500. So I've got a knack for marketing and sales, even before I had experience. Let me spend a month learning this. And so spent a month. And then I can't tell you how get to the point where everything was set up. And it's like, all right, I'm going to turn these ads on. And at the time, again, I had $500 in the bank account, guys. And so I said, all right, well, I'm going to do $50 a day. That gives me 10 days. And so with a lot of prayer and a lot of hope, I pushed the button to turn on the ads. And I was like, I'm going to get so many phone calls, so many messages. People are going to be banging down my door. Day one, nothing. I was like, all right, it's fine. No worries. Day one's okay. Day two, nothing. By day 8, I was pretty scared. Nobody had called. Nobody had messaged me. And I had $100 left in my bank account. Now, I want to tell I could tell you that I had courage and faith in myself that something was going to change. But that's not what happened. What happened was I was terrified. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm just going to let this go. The next day, day 9, somebody called. And I don't know if you guys know how this works, but when your phone starts ringing and you didn't expect it to ring, you stare at it. And I was looking at my phone. I'm like, wait, somebody's calling me. What do I do? I hadn't had a script. I didn't know what to say. Somebody called, and I just was paralyzed looking at the stupid phone. And I answered it, of course. And the guy answered, and it was a gentleman who was looking for a resume for his daughter because she had just gotten laid off. And I asked him a bunch of questions. I started talking to him, and I knew he could tell I was new. He's like, you don't know what you're doing. You're just new. And at a certain point, he asked a question. He's like, are you new to this? Am I one of your first customers? If you just started a business, that is one of the scariest questions you're going to get, because you don't want to lie because you want to tell the truth. But at the same time, admitting to somebody who just called you that you're brand new isn't exactly a sign of good faith for your business. Okay. So I paused, terrified, and then I admitted everything. I'm like, this is what my plan was. This is my story. Here's what's going on. And then he paused. So I got done talking. I didn't even know if the guy was here. And it was the longest pause in my entire life. I mean, it's probably 5 seconds, but it felt like an eternity, because you know how this works. You tell somebody a truth, and you have to put faith that they're going to do something kind. So I sat there for 5 seconds, which felt like 5 million years. And then he laughed. He laughed his butt off. He couldn't stop. He laughed for a good 30 seconds. He's like, you know, he told me his story. He's like, I've built several businesses. One of the first ones I ever did was similar to yours, where I had subcontractors that I hired, and you know, I was in a situation just like yours, and somebody gave me a chance. And you know, with $50 left my bank account, here's my first sale. And so, you know, sometimes you have moments like that, which just kind of change your trajectory. So the reason I'm telling you that is because I have learned things that don't work and things that have done work. You know, I've got failure stories like that turned into success. This business, this one I'm telling you about, I eventually got so good. My team is so good. Now we're writing. I mean, you tell me an executive in the country at a company, Fortune 500 startup, private equity, my team is probably written for them. We're top of our game and massively successful. And then the other businesses kind of came up after that. You know, the second one, lead generation, I'm really good at that. And I had people who needed it. So that was my second business. And the third one, which is Nuvo Startups, one of my friends said, hey, you've done this great work. Can you help me blow up my business? I said, sure. And so then I started teaching workshops on here's how you do stuff. And so my goal is to be an author and an expert, but I have the experience because I sat in that chair and I know what it's like to be massively fail over and over again with having almost no money left and come from there. So that's my story. Now I want to share that with you because it will help you understand where I come from when I share all the material in the presentation, because you got to know, I know what it's like. So, and also I was a SCORE client like you. I started years ago. And so that's why I can speak from experience, because I know what it's like to be in your chair. And that brings us to you. If you're here today, you're here for a variety of reasons. You may want to earn a decent living. This is one I hear a lot. Hey, I just want to do something I love and make enough to be comfortable. You might want to build a world-class business. That means you want generational wealth. That's great. Build a large company, do some awesome stuff. Love it. You might want to just gain flexibility. 9 to 5 is hard when you get a job, when you have a family. I've got a kid, she's 14 months old. It's hard to own a business. Luckily, I've got teams that run my business, so I can take time off. I've got flexibility. But the thing that I want to mention is your business is to help you achieve your dream. And that business should be enabling you to live it, not preventing you. And that's something that's very important. And running a business is very hard. So I'll list out some of the common pain points that you might be facing. And you can respond in the chat if you felt these. One is fear of starting. You might not know what to do. There are so many things to learn, you don't even know where to start with a business. You may have a business that means you're either feasting or fasting, feasting or having a famine, feast or famine. It's some months you have crazy amounts of business, you don't know what to do with all yourself. Other months there's nothing. Or you're barely in it, and that means you're starving. After paying all your bills, there's barely anything left to pay to live on. And a lot of one that I get is analysis paralysis. You're probably going to lots of webinars, which is great. You're educating yourself, but people like me are on stage saying, hey, do this thing, you got to do this, you got to do this. If you hear that 1,000 times, you're probably going to feel stuck. Analysis paralysis, which is stuck. And you may have tried this stuff, but it's hard. You know, it's one thing for people to demonstrate on stage, oh, look at all this stuff and these results, and then you try it yourself, it doesn't work. Too often it's happened to you. It happened to me a lot. So today we're going to talk about, this is for people who want to start a business, who have a business, and some lessons that everyone can learn to be massively successful. And those are the things we talked about. New customers, expensive mistakes to avoid, how to structure your business to attract new people, how to make over $1 million, all this stuff. Yeah, I got a bingo on analysis paralysis. Absolutely. I know how it feels. Okay. Now let's start talking about your money machine in your, okay? This is imagery that I want you to think about with this stuff. So imagine for a moment that you have a machine in your basement and this machine prints money. Pretty cool. Yeah. Every day, like clockwork, it prints off $100 bills, lots of them. And these machines come in all shapes and sizes. Some are very manual. They make you crank them 10 hours a day just to work. Others are automated. You push a button, very little maintenance. You just put some oil in there, it's good. You actually, if you own a business, you own a money machine right now, or you have work a job, Both of them money machines because they're things that you're doing to produce income. They require inputs like customers, time, labor, materials, and as a process, which goes through it and eventually prints off $100 bills. Now, if you designed and operate your machine that right way, it should be providing you as much as you need to live your dreams. And some of you need a lot, some of you need a little, some of you in between. Most money machines aren't designed very well, though. That's the big problem, which means they don't make any money or so little money that's not worth owning. And that's one of the big problems with owning a business. So I'm going to share a case study of two money machines, one run by Adam and another one run by Chloe. Then we're going to talk about how each one was, how you can be more successful. These two stories will show the difference that the design and operation of similar money machines make in success. So let's start with Adam. Adam worked hard at a full-time employee for 10 years. He's the kind of guy who is the go-to person, working late, working weekends, always being available when needed. Now, 3 months go by, and his company announced a restructure, but they pinky promised that layoffs are going to be very small. You know how this goes. 1 month later, half of Adam's friends are laid off, and Adam starts to worry about his job, as he should. And his job gets worse. He gets a new boss who starts micromanaging him. He's now required to put 2 hours in over the weekend, work every Saturday. He's putting in 60 hours a week. And he's frustrated. So he vents to his friends and they say, you know what? You know how to do this thing. Why don't you go start your own business? So Adam spends the next month planning his business. The dream of being his own boss really inspires him to do courageous things and get outside of the comfort zone. Comes up with a super clever business name for his website design business, and he starts ordering business cards. In 2 months, he's invested $8,000 of his savings into starting this business. He's really going into it. He tells all of his friends how excited he is to start his business. If they need a website, they should call him. And when he's ready, you know how it is when you put your 2 weeks into your boss, how excited you are. And then he just crosses the days until he opens his business. And now Adam is officially open for business. He wakes up excited. He can't wait to check it. So this is day one. Can't wait to check his email inbox for people needing websites. Gets up at 5 a.m. on the first day, goes straight to his email inbox. Strange. Nothing is there. Only a few emails about a Nigerian prince. Weird. No problem, he thinks. Customers will reach out sometime this week. First week goes by. There's no emails or phone calls, which is weird. And then another 6 weeks go by, and finally somebody calls. When he quotes his price, the person you might buy says, hey, your prices are too high. I can get the work done cheaper down the street. Not a great conversation to have. Desperate for business, just to make any money, Adam panics and lowers the prices just to win the work. At the end of the project, Adam divides the hours worked by what he paid and realizes he only made $5 an hour. Now, if y'all didn't know this, the only place in time in America that you can get paid less than minimum wage is if you're an entrepreneur. So if you have a business where you total up the hours you make and then divide it and you're not making good money, even minimum wage, that's hard. But I want to make sure you know that's not the only people that happens. 6 months go by and Adam's savings account's starting to get very low. He's only had 6 customers and they've all been stingy. And he hasn't even made enough money to recoup the $8,000 he invested in the business. To pay bills, Adam accepts a part-time job, temp job, just to get some money coming in. Things don't change with his business. And after 12 months, Adam is depressed, exhausted, defeated. He closes his business. Let's take a look at Chloe's story. Chloe dreamed about owning a business for years. Recently, she did such a great job. She lost 60 pounds and finally fit into the dress she wore when she met her husband 10 years ago. She's very proud of that. After all that hard work, she thinks she can help other women who have struggled with weight loss feel comfortable and confident in their own skin. And after watching a webinar called The Profit Playbook, which you guys are watching too right now, she had decided that she wants to avoid the fate of other business owners who failed. So instead of spending any money on business cards, website, thinking of business names, or investing any money at all in the business, She's decided she wants to see if the business idea will actually work before putting any time or money into it. So what does Chloe do this time? She makes a list of who she thinks her best customer would be. She decides she wants to help women in their 30s and 40s lose a life-changing amount of weight. She wants them to feel beautiful in their own skin and wear that pair of pants that makes their curves look great. She knows that these women are tough moms who have desire and motivation to make big change in their lives. All they need is somebody like Chloe to coach them. So Chloe makes it a goal to meet with her target group of customers and listen to them and figure out what they need. So during her research, she asked the women if they want to participate in a program she's putting together to replicate her once-in-a-lifetime weight loss journey. Those customers listen to her story and decide to give her a chance. She sells the program to each person who signs up for $100, even though they all know it's eventually going to be worth $5,000. Now that she sold the program, she gets to work designing an outline of what's to be learned, what the students will do. And 10 people signed up for $1,000 in sales, and she hasn't even opened the business at all. Now that she has sales, Chloe does all the business setup in one day. She gets a very basic website, which is her name, her phone number, email, and nothing fancy. She gets very basic business cards. She sets up an LLC, all that stuff, all done in less than a day. And after she finishes that group of the initial clients, she's got 10 success stories. And so now she feels confident raising the price to $1,000. So she sells it for $10,000 total. By month 2, she has $10,000 in sales with the goal of getting to $50,000 a month by month 6. What can we learn from Adam and Chloe? Here's the lessons. This is what you want to write down, okay? Here we go. Lesson 1, do the important stuff first and the busy work later. See, many first-time business owners think that they must look good before they can attract customers. That means they got to have the perfect website, the business cards, the coolest business name, everything set up before they do anything. If this is you, it's okay. I was like that when I started my businesses. Remember that 6 months I spent for the yoga business? What do you think I was doing? But you have the ability to learn from my mistakes and be different. Lesson 1. Lesson 2, sell before you do anything. Here's the thing. Most business ideas sound great on paper, but fail terribly when executed. Chloe wanted to make sure she found customers willing to take money out of their wallets and pay her before she did anything, which means selling first. And by the way, I can't tell you how counterintuitive this sounds, because most people want to spend a bunch of money putting together a product or service and then sell it. Well, what if you sold the wrong thing? What if you create a program, spent 3 months on it, and nobody wants to buy it? You see what I'm saying? So with physical products, you've got prototyping, with like coaching services, you got what's the word? Beta programs, selling it first. But I can't tell you how many business owners do the opposite. Again, I went through this, believing that people will just find them and buy the creative idea they've got in their head. And by the way, again, I'm not making anybody feel bad about this. I've done all this stuff myself. Again, I've done this, okay? Now, when it comes to sales, most of you, unless you're weird like me and like sales, if you ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like the idea of doing sales? Probably a -1,000, right? Yeah, you don't like sales very much. You probably don't like the idea of sales. And I know the idea of selling is scary to most people. But I want to share something with you that's very important. This is a question you're going to ask yourself. What's scarier? Losing all of your life savings on a business that doesn't work out, or being uncomfortable and getting sales to prove a business works? I don't know about you, but do you want to risk your business and your life savings on an idea that you don't know is going to work? Probably not. So of the 2 uncomfortable options, choose the lesser evil, which is doing the sales. Because the other thing is, do you want to gamble everything on a business idea that doesn't people buy? Like, how would you feel if you lost everything and ended up depressed and exhausted like Adam? Probably not good. So consider that. Selling before you build is counterintuitive on how you think about most stuff. What most people do is they spend 3 months building it, hope people buy it. And I want to give you another reason why not to do this. We've heard the phrase time is money. So let's say 3 months times full-time labor, there's about 160 hours of work in a month. So let's do the math. 3 times 160, we get 480 math. Now, if your time is worth $100 an hour, which some of yours is probably worth that or less or whatever, you can do the math with this. That's $48,000 of time money that goes into an idea. So which would you rather do? Spend $48,000 of your time on an idea to hope it works, or spend way fewer and sell the product service first to confirm it works? Pretty obvious answer there, right? Lesson 3. You need to have a way to get customers or you will starve. Now, this is not included here, but I teach other presentations. So here's my thoughts. Here's my secret formula for being successful in business. And these are other presentations you can attend. I'm not covering them today. But step 1 is figure out who your best customer is. These are the people who value and pay you. Okay. Second one is create a slam dunk offer they can't refuse. That's important. Number 3 is having a magical sales process, which gets them to convert from non-paying customers to customers. Number 4 is leads on demand. So what I'm saying here is that leads on demand means that you have a system set up which brings you customers reliably. Like I know I can put money into an advertising machine and I can get as many leads as I want for my business whenever I want them. Now, for many of you, that might sound like, how the hell do I do that? That blows my mind. Because a lot of people think that you have to start a business and you wait for people to find you and you got to do SEO and all this stuff. No. You want to be massively successful. The thing I've learned about any business I'm in, before I do any business, I want to have a system that gets me leads on demand. I want to be able to push a button, spend money in advertising, and know I'm going to get the customers when I need them. So, because here's the thing, if you don't, how are you going to survive? You're going to starve because you're relying on people finding you. And if you say SEO is the answer, well, you've seen Google change their algorithm. What happens if you get knocked down and people don't find you anymore? So you have to have something built out. People don't think like this. People really focus on, hey, I'm really good at this product or service. Like I'm a really good hairdresser. People are just going to find me. Not how it works. If you don't have think about the money machine. This is a component of your money machine. If your money machine is missing a component that gets you leads when you want them, that can turn into sales, how are you going to have a predictable business? You're not. And this stuff can be built. So I don't want you to feel like you can't do this. This is stuff that you want to think about and learn from. So, and this is the question I was asked is, if your money machine is missing a part of the thing, the leads on demand system that brings in customers reliably every month, how are you going to have a stable business? You're not. So you're either going to starve or be in a feast or famine situation, which is not fun. It's hard to live comfortably when you're making $20,000 one month, 1,000, 1 month, nothing. Okay. Now I'm putting out big numbers in there because I don't know where you guys are at. But Chloe avoided this problem because she had a process to get new customers to sell her higher ticket item prices. Now, number 4 is make offers so good that customers can't refuse. But you got to find the right customer before you make the offer. So when Chloe started, she knew she didn't have any results or experience. And so she was open about that. She told us, she was honest with her customers, and she shared her story, and she told her that she believed they can get them results. And the $100 they gave her was low risk because she's like, I'm going to give you your money back if I can't help you. And so the customer said, there's nothing for me to lose. So they said yes. When you start a business, you are going after testimonials and results. You are not going to be able to charge a lot for your services. When I first started my resume service, my first sale was $450. Now I sell that service for $5,000. See, now I add a lot more mass value, and I have clients who value that particular service, and so they'll pay the value. They wouldn't pay that when I first started. It's okay to work for free or low cost if it means you learn and grow over time. Okay. Number 5. And this was added at the request of one of my favorite SCORE mentors, okay? And love SCORE, they're awesome. What I want you to do is create a simple written business plan that will get you sales day 1, okay? I lovingly call this is how you remember it, plan the work the plan. Lots of business owners create a plan that gets them funding from a bank or a grant, and then they just forget that it existed. You don't need to have anything complicated. It needs to be simple. Hey, step 1, here's my target customer. Step 2, here's my offer. I'm going to test this with the customer. Step 3, how am I going to get in front of the customers? What's my method to get people to talk to me and get business or sell products or services? Okay, once I do that and do that thing, then I come back to my plan and say, all right, well, based on my learning, how do I update this thing so I keep going? You don't have to have a comprehensive business plan that goes into 5 years. There's different extremes, but most people don't. They just start with nothing. Have something, okay? if you need to something small, just have something simple, which gets you your customer, your offers, and how you're going to get new business. That's my brain, most important things, because if you don't have a way of getting new business, you will starve. And it can't be just, hey, people will refer my business. Not how it works, because what happens if some months you don't get any referrals? See? So plan, and so this workshop is meant to be going on top of what the SCORE mentors are teaching. And by the way, if you talk to any SCORE mentor, they're going to say you need to have a business plan. And I'm agreeing with them 100%. And what I'm saying too for you is, depending on your business model, you want to have the right business plan for you. Some people need to have a 5-year business plan. Some just need a year. Some need 6 months, or just like, hey, we're going to try this 3 months and then we're going to update it. But you want to have a plan that's written down that you can stick to and be agile on. Like when I do business planning, I usually have a vision for 5 years. And then I plan out my next year, high level, what's going to happen, like high level things I want to get done. In the next 3 months to a month or so, I have like detailed stuff, but I set it up so after I get in 3 months, I can replan the next few months for next year's with new information and things that are changing. But that's a lot of experience that I've got to be able to do that. So for you, just have to start with something. And by the way, whenever you teach, it's not about what you're learning. It's about how you believe things, like what your beliefs are and stuff. Like everybody can talk about how awesome a business plan is. You're not going to make a change on this until you actually like switch your brain and say, oh wow, I understand now why I have to do this thing. It's not sexy to write a business plan. They're boring to write, but if you understand it's key to your success, you got to do it. Okay, next thing we're talking about is how to determine if a business idea is a loser or whether it's a winner, because most of your ideas are going to be losers. That's okay. That's how it works. I've got a lot of failures in my belt. So here's the thing. The business has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with your customers. I know. Think about it. Okay, so everybody, I want you to pause for 5 seconds to ask yourself this question. What was the last purchase I made, today or yesterday? What did you guys purchase? Did you purchase gas? Did you go to the grocery store? I had Thai food for lunch. That was my last purchase. Now, let me ask you this. Did you think about the origin story of the entrepreneur who's running that business? You went to a grocery store. Do you care who owns the grocery store and what they struggled with 50 years ago? No, you don't give 2 craps. The Thai place, I love eating there, but like, I don't care about the founder. I just like that they have good food. It's all about me and it's all about you. And my point is, as a customer, they're buying because it's about themselves. They don't care about us at all, okay? So knowing that, let me ask you a hypothetical question proposed by the legendary copywriter, Gary Halbert. Let's say that you decided one day to open a pizza stand. What do you want as your competitive advantage that makes you stand out from your competitors? Would it be best ingredients? You want the lowest prices, best service, fastest service? Believe it or not, the answer is none of those. The answer, and this is something, if you learn one thing from this webinar, this is what I want you to remember. The answer is you want to have a starving crowd. Think about that for a second. Starving crowd is going to pay anything for any pizza you have, no matter how crappy it is. You can have the worst pizza. If they're starving, they're going to pay anything for it because there's so much demand. Let that question guide you. Don't look at the fancy stuff about where is all this stuff and how do you think. Where is your starving crowd? Where are people have a desperate problem and want to pay money for a solution? That's how you think about things as an entrepreneur. You don't want to copy what everyone else is doing. Look at the customers, figure out who's desperate. For example, in Austin, we had a daycare crisis here. Like there were so many people moving here and so few daycares that when my daughter was born, we were on daycare waits for, I don't know. They're like, oh yeah, well, you might get in 18 months. Well, if you're a working family, you got to put your kids somewhere. Now, luckily, I was able to go part-time because I've got staff that run my businesses, and I was able to stay home with my daughter. Well, my wife has a full-time job, so she worked that while I stayed home part-time. And we got in 9 months later. But guess what? Starving crowd. You literally just say, I've got a daycare, I've got starts now. Who's going to sign up? As long as it's safe and it means other things, that's us. See, starving crowd. Ignore what everyone else is doing and look for the customers who are desperate for a solution and will pay anything for it. Then you have a winning business idea. Why? Because this is what the opposite of most business people do. This is everybody. Most business owners that, and by the way, I did this myself, will say, well, I've got experience in this industry. Let's say I'm a plumber or a hairdresser or a web designer or whatever. I'm just going to open a business doing what I know. It works great if there's a starving crowd. But what happens, using the example, what happens if there's 50 pizza stands and only 25 people who want to buy pizza? That's 2 pizza stands for one person getting pizza. And I tell you what, not going to evenly distribute it. One pizza place is going to get most of the people. Guess what happens to the pizza stands that don't have business? Most of them go out of business because there's not enough customers. So anyone thinking about opening a business, the best advice I can give you is go find the starving crowd. And you're like, well, how do I find it? Go talk to customers. You think, go listen to them. I mean, people say about doing research, everybody has no problem doing 20, 30, 50 hours of online research, but everyone's scared to talk to the customers. Go talk to them. What is your biggest pain? What are you frustrated with? If you talk to some people and they all say the same thing and you say, hey, I've got the solution, it's crappy, but it'll work, and they hand you dollars to go build the solution, you have a winning business idea, my friend. That's how you want to think about it. Because the other thing is, a lot of people say, well, I don't have experience in that. That's fine. Are you chained to your experience? Can you learn something new? Of course you can. You can learn new stuff. So you figure out where the crowd is and go serve them. Now, some of you here want to earn a decent living, which is great. Love that. Others want to build multi-million-dollar businesses. So I'm going to answer the question, how do I get to 7 or 8 figures? Because believe it or not, it's not as mystical as you may think. So it's quite simple, really. So you find the starving crowd and design the right type of money machine to serve that crowd, okay? And question 1 you want to ask is, what markets are growing, which industries are shrinking? Let me give you an example. If the market is shrinking, like newspapers, how hard is it to build a 7-figure business? Probably hard or near impossible because they're shrinking. They're going out of business. But what about if an industry is growing? If you had skills in artificial intelligence, you've seen these companies, they go from 0 to $20 billion worth of net worth in like a few months. See, it's different. Starting crowd. So again, you got to pick the right market, the right customer, and make sure it's growing. Then you design your money machine to make sure it's scalable to get over 7 figures. Let me give you an example. If Chloe knows she wants to make $1 million in sales, she asks herself questions, well, how many sales at what price point do I need to make $1 million? Well, $5,000 is a customer. That means she just has to have 200 customers a year. That's doable. That's 16.6 clients per month to get to $1 million in sales. Again, doable. She can get 16 clients a month. She knows it takes 5 sales calls to get 1 client. So that means 84 sales calls a month. That's 21 a week. That's 4 calls a day. Could you do 4 calls every 30 minutes each to make $1 million? Yeah, I bet you could. Of course you could. And you would have yourself a $1 million business. That's how this stuff works. You can repeat this exercise with different business models. I'm a fan of selling high ticket stuff for clients. You know, I've helped people build high ticket courses and stuff. And so I've got experience doing this. Well, I don't want to go too much off track, but you can do this with any service or product. You know, hey, I've got a product I sell for $500, do the math. I've got a product that sells for $200, do the math. Same thing. But the key that you need to do is, if you want to make $1 million or $10 million, reverse plan it. Here, how much do I need to make? That's how you do it. Next thing we're going to talk about is a concept called the 1 domino. And it comes from Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Workweek. And the premise of this is, he was at a conference and somebody asked him, hey, what's your morning routine? And the premise behind the question is, like, what are successful people doing in their morning, which sets them up for success and makes them massively successful? Well, see, that's the wrong question. The reason why is because the better question is, what are successful people not doing? What are they not held back by? What kind of, because like you can see what they're doing, but you don't see the things that are invisible, like the self-doubt, the depression, the education barriers, lack of skills on sales and marketing and stuff. You don't see all that stuff. So what are they don't have that I have that's holding me back? Also, the way you think about stuff. They're like, hey, I can build a $5 million business. Can you build a $5 million business? Probably the idea is scary. You're like, I just want to make $5,000, $10,000 a month. See, that idea is scary because you don't think like that, but they do. See, so anyway, so he was asked, like, what do you do? And he's like, okay, here's my morning routine. Here's how I think about things differently. First off, I get 8 hours sleep every night. Got to be rested. Then when I wake up, I have a very relaxing morning. Very relaxing. Wake up, I have my favorite cup of coffee, I do some journaling, do some walking, enjoy myself. And then I ask myself one question. What is the one thing that I can do right now that will change everything? And when I say change everything, that means any goals he's got, how do I get them faster? Any problems or fires or issues I've got with clients, business, whatever, how do I put all those fires out and then prevent them in the future? That's the one domino. What one thing can I do right now that's going to do that? Because most people don't do that. Most of us, and I'm guilty of this too, sometimes, wake up, we check our social media, we go on email, we put out fires, we start our day behind because we're looking at what the universe is throwing at us instead of saying, hey, universe, this is what I want, and putting the intention of doing that. And so it's an incredibly powerful way of thinking because instead of being reactive, you're proactive and get things done. And believe it or not, you can do the same thing for yourself. So the question I'm going to pose to you is this. What one thing can you do that will change your life forever in the good? What's the one domino that will get everything falling over in line just like this? Now, to help you, I got to figure out what that is. So what's the domino? Well, I've given it a lot of thought, actually. I've looked at some of the most successful people in the world. This is business gurus like Steve Jobs, Michael Jordan, even people from 500 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci. They all had one thing in common. One thing. What is it? What is the one domino that they've got that's different? What is it? What's the secret? Every successful person had this one thing. They all had multiple Yodas. Multiple Yodas. Now, for those non-Star Wars fans, that means they had multiple guides, coaches, advisors, people who were in their corner, people who believed in them, people who took them from raw talent, developed them into the best in the world. The key that I want to point out to you is that they had several mentors, not just one. You're going to need a wide variety of people that can help you. Like for me, I always look for mentors now because it's super helpful. This is a plug for SCORE. They are amazing and they got great education opportunities too. Why do I say this? Well, let me show you why. Because running a business is one of the hardest things you're going to ever do in your life. I'll give you an example. Imagine that you had to climb the stairs of a skyscraper that's 1,000 stories tall. Now, this thing is massive. Look at this. You can't even see the top of it. It goes into the sky. There's clouds that block it. 1,000 stories. There's not even a building like that exists. But at the top, you know that you will find a treasure chest that has all of your dreams in it. Everything you ever wanted, all your dreams, all your desires are inside this chest. Pretty cool, huh? Well, you got to walk up the stairs to get it. 1,000 stories. How long is it going to take you? Probably a full 16-hour day, and you're going to be exhausted. But it'll be worth it because you got everything you'd want ever in your life. Well, running a business is more complicated than that. Now imagine there's 1 million of these 1,000 story skyscrapers. Well, guess what? Only 5 of them have treasure in them now. You still got to walk up the skyscraper to find the treasure manually each day. It takes a full day to get up there. Problem now is if you pick the wrong one, the ones that don't have treasure, they might hurt you. You can lose money, lose your financial security, lose relationships. Hell, your reputation might suffer. You could lose your physical or mental health. Now, here's the thing. You got to choose the right skyscraper to climb. And each one still takes you a full day. How do you choose? And what's more likely to happen? You find it picking right 5 times out of 1 million? Or the other 999,995? I can't even say it's such a big number. What if you guessed wrong for 5 years and you lost your life savings, your spouse, and your health started to suffer from all the stress? See, there's an easier way to do this. Let's say that before you started searching for treasure, you assembled a trusted group of advisors to help you. By listening, they narrowed down the list from 1 million to 1,000. It's a lot fewer. And instead of walking up the stairs, one of the advisors shows you the secret elevator that gets you to the top in 2 minutes. Instead of working a full day, you get up there in 2 minutes. How long is it going to take you to find the treasure now? Probably not that long. The only thing that matters in business is outcomes. Outcomes are the results that you want. In our example, that's a treasure chest. And these are dreams. These are time freedom, financial freedom. What do you want? That's what the dream is, okay? Now, with your which option do you want? Do you want to spend option one, the slow route, which is working 80 hours a week for 5, 10, 20 years, hopefully one day you get there? Or option two, which is the fast route, which is working those same hours, but getting there in 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years. Which option do you pick? Well, I don't know about you, but I pick the fast option every time. And I bet you do too, because you want your dreams faster. That's why I recommend getting a paid group of advisors around you. Now, a couple of things I'll share about this. Score is awesome. You should check out your local chapter and get a mentor. So here's my thoughts on this. When you first start, you're going to be broke and not have a lot of money. Get a score mentor. They're going to support you. As you get some success and track record, you're going to assemble other advisors around you. Like, for example, for me, I have score mentors and I have paid advisors. So why do I paid advisors? Because they're specialists in the areas, and you get more from it. That's just how it works. I've got somebody from marketing, advertising, sales stuff that coach me on different areas. And so, but I still have my score mentor because it's great. It's a great relationship. I'm not tied to paying them money, and they are very helpful. And so when you first start, go get a score mentor. If you're even starting further in business, you could still get one. You are going to want to assemble a group of advisors though. So when you think about this, you want to go with the trajectory of your business. But the thing that I'm mentioning is, people think that when they spend money on advice or spend time on advice, that it's like they should do it themselves. That's the worst way of doing it. Well, we have this myth in America that it's the entrepreneur by themselves versus the world, which is propagated by people who work full-time jobs and are scared of entrepreneurship. That's not how you become successful. You become successful when you quit your job, you do the thing, and you get a bunch of people who've done it before who say, hey, don't do all the stuff that doesn't work. Do the stuff that works and get you there a lot faster. And so if any advice I can give you, that's it. Get a group of advisors around you, and they're available for you. Score is awesome. Wrapping up. So today we talked about coupling story, how you should focus on the problem and the solution, not just tied to one solution. We did a case study of Adam and Chloe, which you should be doing. Talked about finding the starving crowd, and we finished with one domino. If you enjoyed today's workshop, I'll provide some ways to continue learning. You can visit Score's website. Of course, I've got lots of resources on there. Also, when I was in your shoes, this was years ago, we were doing stuff in person. And so I would go to the back. Every time a speaker would present, I would run to the back of the room and pick their brain, because that's how I was. I want to know, hey, I've got all these questions. How do I do it in my business? And so if we were in person, I would just invite you guys to come chat with me at the back of the room, and you'd be able to ask questions. With virtual workshops, a little harder to have that natural sense of community, and also you may not want to ask your questions because everyone has to see them and get answers. You may have specific ones. So what I will do is I will open myself up for virtual coffee for anybody who wants to chat with me and pick my brain. So if you have questions about the webinar and would like to set up a virtual coffee, you can email me here, which is alexander@nuvostartups.com. It's right here on the screen. And then the next is questions. And what I'll do too is I'll put a link in the chat too, if you guys want to check that out too. And I'll open it up for questions. Now, we've had kind of a quiet group today. I hope everything was helpful that I taught, and you guys enjoyed the stories and you learned some stuff. So if you guys don't have questions, I would like to hear what you guys thought was helpful. If there were specific topics or stories that really stood out to you. The reason why is because I'm using this. I'm teaching a score because I love score. I'm also teaching this to get practice because I want to be a speaker and an author. And so when I hear feedback from you guys, it helps me get better with content. So that's why I was asking too. And again, if you guys don't feel comfortable asking questions, by the way, that's completely okay. Some people are like, look, I don't want to, you can set up a time with me and chat and ask all the questions you want. Eston said, you confirming to work for free was helpful because social media pushes to never work for free. Well, you're not working for free though. You see, when you're working, you have a conversation with a customer, you add no value, you have no experience. You're like, look, Mr. Customer, I need experience, I need testimonials. And so I'm working for experience, I'm working for testimonials, and also your feedback. And so you're not actually working for free. You're working for a testimonial. And what happens is sometimes you do the work and the person's like, well, this was awesome, here, take my money. But you will get a testimonial. And the thing about it is your first customer helps you get the second customer. Now, I have worked for low fees. I've worked for $1 before just to get a result. So they do pay something. Like, it's funny, like people are like, oh yeah, you work for $1? Yeah, of course. I want to get the person, I want to reverse the risk on somebody. Here's the other thing about social media. You will have a lot of people who tell you certain things, but not all advice is good advice. Oftentimes there's an echo chamber. I could tell you stories about this, but a lot of times people who repeat the same thing don't have context, and they might not have been in business and know what they're doing. Like I've got experience. I could let my voice crack when I said that, but I have experience, and so I know what I'm talking about. And so if an entrepreneur comes to me and says, I'm starting, like, okay, well, how do you get your first customer? Are you working for $1? Great. They're your first customer. They paid you $1. You work for free, testimonial, whatever. And so do a good job. You learn. You're working to learn a lot of times. Or you don't have to. It just depends. Like with my first business, I didn't want to work for free. So I hired a writer, and then I promoted them when I sold the thing. And so I was able not to work for free. So it just depends. But if you're promoting yourself, yeah, you're trying to get testimonials and clients. Yeah, but it's good. All right. With lesson number 2, how does one sell a service such as a beer tap room before actually launching the business? It sounds like I should try serving potential customers. What do you think? What is a beer tap room? I'm curious to what that is. Please share, and I'll give you a better answer, because I don't have like a visual of what that is. Sounds cool and interesting, but I don't know what that is. Irma says, will I get the video? Yep, you will. Bar that focused on craft beers. I see. Huh. Well, how do I sell it before it's built? I don't have the answer to you, but I will give you some ideas, and maybe the ideas will help you brainstorm a way of doing this. And so this is actually a really good thought exercise, because if you build a bar with craft beers and nobody buys it, nobody shows up, that's a lot of money invested. Just to get a retail space or build the bar itself, you're looking at several $100,000 just to build a facility. And and also, depending on where you go, it might not be several $100,000, but if you're doing retail location, that build out's expensive. And there's all these fees, all these permittings. And so, yeah, you want to validate that works. And so, it's an idea, again, just a way of thinking about it. This is kind of like the cufflink story, how we're trying to figure out to solve the problem. So the question you have is, how do I validate this idea before I actually put a lot of money into an effort? And so, number one, starving crowd. Are people desperate for this? Maybe not. Maybe sometimes some products are very obvious, like, hey, people are desperate for a solution, so they buy it. Sometimes people need an education, like they don't know what it is. Like I didn't know what that was. And so if you educate me about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. So what's the necessary thing? Is it for bachelor parties? Is it for events? Is it for all this stuff? Maybe what you do to validate it is you kind of do like what a food truck would do. You have a mobile thing that costs less. Like think about a lot of food, a lot of restaurants like Torchy's Tacos. Some of you guys had that. That's in Austin. They started as a food truck, and they were so popular they now are a chain of restaurants that are expanding all over the country. But they validated the concept with a food truck, which is way less expensive than having to get a retail space to build it out. So what I challenge you to do is think about the problem differently, which is instead of investing all this money into it and building a really complicated business plan, how do I validate that customers will pay money for this? And so, you spend the minimum amount possible on an idea, test it out, see if people buy it. Again, that idea might not work for what you're trying to do, but I'm saying is like, it's a way of thinking about the problem differently. So instead of just saying, hey, cufflinks, I got to solve this. Like your problem is, defining the problem is you want to validate to make sure that people actually want to buy what you have to offer. And so figure out a way to have low costs to try that out. Like an example of what I'm saying is sometimes you do prototyping, you got to spend a little money on it, or like a service, you got to spend a little money and time on it. I'm just saying before you spend whatever the figure is to get a retail location and test it out, just validate it and get customer feedback so people actually would want to throw money at you. Nicole says, I'm creating online magazines, suggesting how to acquire ads income. Great question. That's one that you may want to chat with me about. So if you want to talk, it's a conversation. There's lots of different ways to do it, but the general path is figure out who your magazine is going to be, which is think of it like this. You are selling media advertising. Okay. And so media is all about customer. So like, for example, me, I have a certain customers that I target my business. And so let's say we use Chloe's example. She's targeting women between the ages of 30 and 50 who want to lose weight. Well, she asks herself, well, what magazines or what website are they on? and then she wants to spend money on ads to get their attention. And so what you want to think about, and again, we can talk more if you like, is I got to figure out who my customer is. And then I figure out like, who are the people who want to advertise to my customer? And then you approach them, make an offer so good they can't refuse. Well, if they can get eyeballs on the ads for a lot cheaper when you're starting, well, they're going to want to invest, especially if they get sales, and they'll keep on investing. They're all about sales. You want to sell ad space and create content, they're all about sales. And so if you can say to them, look, I've got this thing that I'm building that will get you sales, you got their attention, especially if it's like lower prices to start. Good. I mean, again, we could chat more about it, but that's usually the crux of it. All right. How would you advertise, market a Groupon campaign? Great question. I want to share a couple things with you guys about this. And Cecilia, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Jacobs, I'm just gonna say your last name because I don't want to, you've got a beautiful first name. I just don't want to mispronounce it. So my whole thing is that I want to have customers who pay, stay, and refer. Now, my favorite business model, and this isn't for everybody, but this is my own way of thinking about it, is if I'm working with somebody who has a business or my own business is, I want to be in a situation where I can help you guys raise your prices. Because it's there's no strategic advantage to being the cheapest cost, but there is to being the most expensive. And I can tell you stories about that. But the problem with Groupon is a way of getting exposure, but it attracts a cheaper customer who's driven by value. And so if that's the kind of customer you want that always wants discount services, you can go after them, but there's a better way of doing it. And so it's kind of like the coupling thing. So you're asking me, how do I get customers with Groupon? And my suggestion is, hey, look at this problem as like, that's my cuff link that I'm looking for. But really your problem is, how do I get more customers that are willing to pay more and stay around? So that's how I reframe looking at it. I hope that helps. And so then you say, all right, well, where are my customers at? And how do I target them with media? I mean, there's more to the conversation, but I don't particularly like doing stuff like Groupon because I don't want to attract the wrong type of customer. Like, we hope that people who buy our discount services will stick around. But a lot of times they don't. A lot of times you just have people who take your discounted stuff and leave. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you either. I mean, if you want to ask more questions, I don't want to. I want to use the cufflink story for you just to have context to how I'm thinking about it and how I'm trying to help you get more customers. How do I ascertain if a retailer is starving for my product? Talking to them, asking them. I don't know more about your product. It's hard to tell without knowing more about your product. We could chat if you like, and I could ask you some questions, but it really just depends on situations. And it's not the retailer doesn't matter. What matters is the retailer's customers. So if the customers are begging for your product or solution, the retailer's gonna be like, fine, let's order the stupid thing because people want to buy it. Make sense? The retailer doesn't care. They just want to have stock that sells. How about a pop-up shop? I may sound dumb, but what is a pop-up shop? If you could.
A pop-up shop is a space that in Akron has one, and I think there are some in Cleveland, where the space is available for a short period of time where you can test out something. So somebody who wants to start a restaurant may have it for one weekend and they get to test their recipes and stuff.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great, I think it's a great approach to allow entrepreneurs to test things out.
Love it. Yeah. Those are the kind of like that. That's a wonderful way of approaching the problem. The key is like, you want to test it out before you go all in on it. And that's another option for you.
Right. Right. And they might try some of, like, the summer coming on, some of the festivals that, where you can have a booth and try something.
Yeah. You just want to try things without putting a lot of money into it and figuring out the right combination before you try to go all in.
I do want to mention, since you actually brought it up, is having advisors. SCORE does provide advisory boards for businesses if they are interested, where we would provide maybe a marketing person, a finance person, and so forth as a free advisory board. And so all they really have to do is ask.
See, lots of great. This is why SCORE is awesome. Lots of different resources available. Got another question from Essence. I have a virtual assistant company, then have been working with emerging entrepreneurs. I'm now working to scale into getting more efficient companies. Any advice how to go about that? Again, great question. It's probably more of a conversation. That might be one that's not, how I mentioned like how some things are basic and obvious, like, hey, if I'm starving, I need to buy food. Well, for like, as myself, I have assistants. And so myself as an entrepreneur, like, I didn't know that I was at a point that I should hire assistants. I know it now, but like at the point, like, think about it. Like when you're first starting as an entrepreneur, you're doing everything yourself. Getting customers, you're doing the work, you're hustling, you're marketing, you're doing sales, everything. And usually it's not until something breaks and you like feel exhausted that you say, all right, I need to get some help. And so, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with one of them, like if you talk to entrepreneurs who know they need assistance, easy sale. A lot of times you're going to need to like convince them that they need to have an assistant. Does that make sense? You have to like get them to knowing that. That's called demand generation. Like actually saying, hey, you have this problem. Here's a way of solving it. And again, this is more complex than marketing stuff. But yeah, I mean, you want to be able to drive demand so people know about your product and service and understand the value and like rethink of it differently. And then once they know about it, then you nurture them into leads and then close them via sales appointments. Again, I can chat with you if you want more detail about that, but that's probably what you're running into is people who know about it, like it, but some people like they say, oh, well, I don't know, they don't know that they need it yet. That would be from my experience before I hired assistants, that was I'm pretty much your target group there. So that's my experience with it, but maybe different. At Nicole Crawford, think about the content magazine. Just gave a good comment. Great. Everybody's working together on chats. And I'll put the link in there for you guys too. Okay, so got great questions, everybody. And then, we got one from Melissa. My sister and I have been in a service-based business. Sorry if I butchered this. Zenergy, Pilates, and wellness for about 1 year. We are seeking a good track record. We are seeing a good track record of growth. However, we are in need of securing funding to move our studio to a larger building. I have researched different options. What are your suggestions you have? Crowdfunding a better option, a real source of loans better. What I would do if I were you is I don't know if you have an advisor, Melissa, a SCORE mentor, but I would go talk to one of them because this is like their wheelhouse on financing options. Because you might be able to get a loan from the SBA. If you've been in business for long enough, you might be able to actually get an SBA loan, which is pretty nice, pretty favorable conditions. You get a guaranteed rate. I have an accounting background, so I know about financing and stuff. But there are people who are really good at this, and they are a lot better than I am that I can answer your question. But here's the good news: the fact that you have growth record and you want to scale, which is amazing, love it. The way I approach this, I'm going to give you my cufflink story. Is you getting good sales, getting good things. What if you didn't have to get a loan to get this thing? Tell me more, right? And I teach a workshop called How to Increase Sales by Attracting More of Your Best Customers. I think I'm teaching that for Cleveland in July, I think. Yeah. And you should come to that because it's all about how do I look at my customer and how do I actually make more per customer, have better offers where I actually have a cash cow of business and I don't need to get loans if I don't want to. So you've got options. You've got traditional financing, you've got crowdfunding, or if you're able to tweak your business and do some things where you can actually make more per customer, you might not even have to. So I hope that gives you some like ways of thinking about it, just like the cufflink thing. You got a problem, but like there's different ways of thinking about it. So I definitely encourage you to reach out to Cleveland SCORE because they're awesome. And they've got people who can, just to get more information and like specifics on here's how I think about it. And because if you're armed with different information, you can make a decision that can be in your best interest. So that's what I suggest you do. All right. Carol said, thank you. Wanted to pivot my business. It helped pivot my thinking. Wonderful. I'm glad that everybody buys this. And I'll be back, like I said, in a few months.
Well, thank you very much for running the session today. I think it was full of information and a lot of exciting ideas. And yes, tune in again next month. We'll be doing another session. And thank you so much for doing this. And for those of you who attended, thank you for spending an hour of your time with us this evening. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.